I said, while Thibodeau is a very good candidate, a great candidate, arguably, even, I personally don't know and don't feel or think or agree that he was the best candidate. And we're almost to who that was. Or, yeah, who that was, is. But I got the impression throughout the whole process from the last week or so when the season ended and they announced that Sam wasn't coming back and we're going to be hiring someone new. I felt the whole time that there wasn't really an open process being conducted on behalf of the organization. I really felt like they already had their guy picked, knew who their guy was, weren't going to entertain any other real possibilities or schools of thought on the matter and just, make their move to get their guy. And that guy is Tibbs because of not only, he's one of the big names that us basketball illiterate, hockey loving idiots here in Minnesota are familiar with. And for the record, I don't say hockey loving idiots because hockey's stupid. I say hockey loving idiots because we're idiots when it comes to our basketball IQ here in the state of Minnesota because we spend all of our time watching and loving hockey and just completely ignoring and not appreciating the game of basketball. It's hard for me, being a basketball fan and somewhat of a basketball expert, living in the state of Minnesota when the majority of sports fans and even basketball fans in Minnesota aren't very smart when it comes to basketball. But that's another rant and another issue for another episode. But anyway, I got to get back on track here. Why isn't Tom Thibodeau the best fit? What are the negatives to Thibodeau now as our coach? Well, he is notorious for working his players into the ground, both physically, mentally, energy, everything. He's renowned, notorious for working his players into the ground, which can yield great results. Pressure makes a diamond, or it crumbles rocks. And sometimes not everybody can be a diamond. You got to have some rocks too. But philosophy-wise, in addition to that, he's pretty old school, pretty intense, pretty in your face. Not the type of coach or personality that you think of in connecting and motivating and maximizing young players and young talent. He's definitely going to be a coach that not everybody is going to like or want to play for. Both, people who are on the team and, possible rookies and free agents that you'll want to sign at some point in time. And vice versa. And he will attract some as well. But this is where it gets to the main point for me. It all comes down to a matchup of the current T-Wolves personnel and direction as far as players go, matching up with Thibodeau's style and philosophy. Yes, he's great at defense, and yes, we stunk at defense. That's a no-brainer, okay? But just about anybody who knows anything about defense was going to come in and improve us at defense. To me, the top priority was maintaining and building upon our strengths, which is our youth and our offense from those youthful players. Shabazz Muhammad, Big Cat, Wiggins, Levine, Rubio even. I fear that the T-Wolves next year are going to struggle all season offensively, and that their offensive numbers are going to drop drastically from what they were this year. And I also feel that the defensive numbers are going to, do the exact same, but in the reverse direction, that the defensive numbers are going to be way better than they were last year. But so ultimately what that leaves you with is, as a team-wise, from a success standpoint, next season and expectations-wise, you're not going to be all that more competitive or better off than you were this year. It's in a sense taking a young team that had established itself as borderline great offensively here now by the end of the season and terrible defensively and saying, okay, you have to start over at both. Whereas I would have liked a coach that could have came in and locked down we rock on offense. We got all these things. I know how to maximize it even more, and we're going to make sure that this current strength is a continued strength for years to come. And then we're, in addition to that, going to improve the defense as well. So that's a big concern of mine, and don't be surprised when it exactly unfolds that way. The other main thing that I don't like about it, and then we'll get to who I wished and why and move on to other topics, comes from a dream for all true Minnesota basketball fans and T-Wolves fans. We have suffered 13 consecutive years now of not making the playoffs, and everybody's excited because with Thibodeau at coach and the young talent that we have, it's very reasonable to believe and expect that we will be a playoff team, a team that makes it into the playoffs within the next 1 to 2 years, and will continue to be a team that makes it into the playoffs throughout most of, if not all of, Thibodeau's tenure, at least on this first initial 5-year contract. That being said, that shouldn't be good enough. It's been so long since we were even relevant that Minnesota Timberwolves fans are ecstatic and content with just that. But not this one. Oh no, not yours truly, not the one and only Scotty Ball. I want a team that can and will contend for a championship. Not contend for playoff berths. And contend to make it into the second round every once in a while. I want a team that can legitimately, for a 5-year period, make it to the conference finals and legitimately have a chance, be capable of, they don't necessarily have to do it, but, be capable of making it to the finals and even winning a finals. I want a championship of some kind. I want a championship contender. Okay, I don't want a playoff contender. I want a championship contender. So let's football analogy it, because everybody knows football. Basically, Tom Thibodeau, based off his track record, we'll compare him to a Denny Green. Okay, Denny Green, sure, he'll be great if you want to make the playoffs. Okay, if you want to be a winning team, as far as having a winning record every year, sure, he's great for that. He'll build it. He'll coach it. No problems. Consistent. You're going to have nothing but playoff heartbreak and no championships to show for it when it's all said and done, and just be starting over a big, long, painful rebuilding process. If we should have learned anything from watching basketball over the last 5 to 10 years, you should understand that you get one shot at this when you've got a core nucleus of young talent, as the T-Wolves do. Case in point, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You get one shot at it. You blow it, you lose a piece, and you take a step back. Then you have to somehow try and find a way to get back to where you were and overcome that final hurdle. It just, man, you're really stacking the odds against yourself. You got one shot to get this right, and I'm not talking about getting it right, of having a winning record at the end of the regular season, making it into the playoffs as a 7 seed. Woohoo, we're the new Memphis Grizzlies. Yay! I don't want to be the new Memphis Grizzlies. I want to be the new Golden State Warriors. And we could have went out, and instead of getting a Denny Green or an Andy Reid or some other non-championship winning coach that can, have a winning regular season team and make playoffs but never do anything when it comes time, for all the marbles in the playoffs, I wanted the T-Wolves to go out and get the next Pete Carroll of the NBA as far as coaches go. I wanted them to go out and get the young, new, revolutionary guy that has all the track record and pedigree in the world too, but is new school and knows how to speak to and get the most out of young players, today's generation. And that, my friends, was/is Luke Walton. of the Golden State Warriors. Assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors, Luke Walton, is, if you listen to real around the country and around the globe basketball minds, was the number one head coaching candidate of any and every open position. Why? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because his last name's Walton, his father's Bill, and so he's been developing a superior basketball IQ since the time he was born. Maybe because he had success in college, maybe because he won multiple championship rings as a player, albeit a role player coming off of the bench, still a player in the league with rings, observed from that perspective all the elements and components that go into a championship team. He won a championship ring as an assistant coach last year for the Golden State Warriors. This year, he was their interim head coach for basically the first half of the regular season while Steve Kerr was gone with illness and personal issues. And over that course of time, their record was something crazy like 39-4 or something. They won their first 29 games in a row, something like that, an NBA record. When this is a young team of little to no veterans coming off of a championship that should be on a slump, or a little lackadaisical at least. Just everything that this guy has done up until this point suggests that he is going to be the next Phil Jackson, the next Pete Carroll, if we were talking football, the next innovative, revolutionary, groundbreaking coach to just change the game, just flip it all. But no, instead, the T-Wolves chose to become the new Memphis Grizzlies. Yay! We're a Midwest team that's going to win about 50 games every year and maybe make it to the second round of the playoffs every once in a while, but we will never be taken seriously as a championship contender. Woohoo! I would have much rather taken the chance on Luke Walton. Yes, there is the difference, if you want to argue pro Thibodeau, the difference I would give you is that you know more what you're getting with Thibodeau. You're guaranteed, you're a little more strongly guaranteed a positive return, and there's a less chance for a negative return. My counter to that would be that is absolutely correct. However, I would prefer the guy with the bigger ceiling. I don't want a ceiling that is just making it to the second round of the playoffs. And that's our ceiling with Thibodeau for forever. Our ceiling with Walton was dynasty. Yeah, you heard me. I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm not using that word lightly. I'm not tossing it around. The ceiling with Walton was dynasty. Don't get me wrong. The basement or the floor was disaster. Was complete failure. You had your one shot, like I said. You blew it. You lost 2 of the 3 pieces. Now you're starting all over, rebuilding with just 1. They're not young anymore. Good luck. And with Thibodeau, that basement or floor isn't that low. That's not really a possibility, I don't think, with Thibodeau. But like I said, when you've suffered the way that we've suffered as T-Wolves fans, and just sports fans in general, as Minnesota sports fans, when you've suffered the way we've suffered, that's all we've ever had here, is teams that stink super bad, or they'll be, and then every once in a while they'll be decent, or teams that are good for a large amount of time, but end up with nothing to show for it but meaningless division titles, or, stuff like that. We deserve better. We should want better. And I do. And that's why I've been voicing as loud as I can for forever that Luke Walton's the guy. T-Wolves didn't want to listen. Timberwolves are improved with Thibs, but not improved enough. And mark my words, next year, T-Wolves will not win. T-Wolves won 30 games this year approximately, maybe 28 or 29, something like that. T Wolves will flirt with 40